Good evening, I'm Mark and I'm an alcoholic. Thank you for asking me to share at your meeting. It's always wonderful to share at different meetings and get to meet a few new people, and it's certainly I'm a very grateful alcoholic. I've been in AA. My home group is the Deal in Armidale, largely on Sunday nights, but we have a meeting on Wednesday night also. My sobriety date's the 1st of January 2008, so recently clocked over 5 years of sobriety, which certainly, when I first came in, or certainly when I was drinking, certainly never expected and never was a part of my life plan. But very grateful for the 5 years of sobriety that I've had, and certainly my life over the last 5 years has changed significantly, and certainly not in areas that I would have expected, and certainly my life plan, I guess, didn't expect me to be where I am at the moment and all those sort of things, but very happy and very grateful, which I can say that I certainly wasn't always during my drinking years. I had a pretty normal sort of upbringing, certainly a happy and privileged upbringing, really. So it was, nothing particularly out of the ordinary. I mean, I suppose you can look back at times and think, you're a bit different and all that sort of stuff. But, there was certainly nothing out of the ordinary. And we had a good life. But by the time, sort of teenage years, I had an older brother, and he was certainly, probably one of the catalysts for me to start drinking, I suppose. He was going out and having a good time, at age 15 and 16 and those sort of things with his mates, and, being a couple of years younger and looking up to your older brother, I was pretty keen to do the same, and so the first couple of times drinking, everything was sort of okay, didn't get too bad, and sort of no blackouts, but the first time I really had the opportunity to have a big drink. It resulted in a blackout, and I woke up the next day thinking that obviously not everyone sort of drinks like this, and it's not really supposed to happen, and but then thought, we had a good time and there was no consequences of it, so it's not the end of the world. And in reality, that was sort of the start of me worrying about it and potentially obsessing about the amount that I drank, and certainly the quantities, but also the speed in which I drank. And over time, I don't remember exactly the timelines, but probably by the time I was 17, it was an every Friday night, every Saturday night type of occurrence, so once a week. Drinking. Started drinking, and then sort of got white line fever, as I called it. I was a keen sportsman, and it was sort of seemed like is what I sort of termed it within myself was white line fever. And once I got that, I couldn't stop, and it would ultimately end in blackout, and not knowing how the night would end, and not knowing at the end of the next day how I got home, and progressively that bothered me more and more, and the more stuff that sort of happened, and the more blackouts, and as things happen, during drinking and that sort of thing, and you can fob it off when you're younger, but the longer that went on, the worse it sort of became for me, and the more I began to obsess about the reasons why I was drinking, why I was different, why I couldn't stop, during while I was drinking, and why I couldn't drink like the normal man, as the big book points out. And I reckon right through the end of school, right through uni, even the first 10 years of working life, really, probably it was an every weekend sort of occurrence that I would be a blackout drinker. And over time that got worse and worse and played on me, and it knocked me around, in the sober days, and for a long period of time I was a weekly drinker because I couldn't stand the thought of doing it every night, I guess. So it was normally a one week, and I was the classic binge drinker, and over the years it wore me down, during the periods when I wasn't drinking. I mean, it wore on my self-esteem and my self-confidence, and It moved from just that to self-loathing and, withdrawing from society and, not trying to make friends or, sort of turning off and being insular, in fear of the next time that I got drunk that I'd make a fool of myself and, no one would want to know me anyway. So, by the time I got here when I was 34, I was pretty cooked, and I was very cooked, really. I mean, I had thought about ringing AA previously, but never had the courage to do it, if that's the right word. Or, I still thought that I could control my drinking, and I'd known I had a problem for years and years, but always thought that I could control it, or something would change, and one day I'd be able to, drink like a normal man, and obviously that never happened. And so by the time I was sort of 34, it was after a typical sort of event for me. I had it had a big lead up. It had a lot of expectation around the evening, or there was a lunch actually, and by the time the 2 weeks had come around, I was ready for a drink and ready for a night out or lunch out, and that was a lunch that turned into a late night, another blackout. Woke up the next day with an ever increasingly bad hangover, and as it turned out, that was the last straw for me. So that weekend, I had lots of extreme guilt, shame, remorse, and spent a lot of time trying to withdraw and work out what the problem was and how I could fix it, because I didn't want to live this way anymore. And by the time I got around, so back at work on Tuesday, and there was a lot of fear around that, because people I'd been drinking with were all at work, and all of those sort of issues, and just had the sick feeling in my stomach, wondering what people were thinking of me and what I'd done, and I didn't even know, and the reality is I probably didn't know, probably didn't do too much, except for being rolling drunk, and people probably expected that of me at that time. And so by the Tuesday or Wednesday, I rang AA and they said, yeah, mate, I understand, just get to a meeting. And I ended up getting to meetings at the gallery in the city, and I, sort of hid the AA from people, so I sort of tried to sneak into the Salvation Army building at the time at the top of Burke Street, not far from where I was working. And, I went there, and, first meeting I was really grateful, because I really identified. I never knew that other people were experiencing the same things that I was and feeling the same way. And that kept me coming back. I ended up drinking, that was sort of at the end of November, and I ended up drinking again between Christmas and New Year, and then sort of gave it away Christmas, if you like, New Year's Eve, and decided that I'd tell my family that I'm giving it up for a couple of months for health reasons. It had been a big spring carnival and all that sort of stuff, and so I used that as a bit of an excuse, but continued to go to AA right throughout, and the more I went, the more I identified with people, and the more safe and secure, I guess, I felt that other people were feeling the same way, and that they could identify with what I was feeling. And I did that for 3 or 4 months, and then finally came clean and told the wife, at the sort of the middle of March or something like that. And it was a big thing for us and our relationship as well. I mean, obviously I'd been a drinking partner for a long period of time, and we'd probably been together for about 8 or 9 years, I guess, at the time. And so we had a lot of history, and so it was a really difficult. It has been, and it continues to be in some instances, really difficult throughout our marriage. And but that's certainly one of the success stories of AA, I think. But so I came clean, and she was pretty shocked, but I guess she sort of came to understand a little bit, and so I ended up finding a home group which just happened to be around the corner from where we lived, which ended up being the deal, and was certainly very grateful to find the deal. I think I necessarily haven't been to other meetings and got heavily involved like you obviously do when you're in a home group, but I think the fact that they follow the program and obviously sponsor, and that was when I first got a sponsor, and worked through the first few steps. And I always, I came from a school that sort of promoted religion, and they turned me off it, if you like. I mean, I was a non-believer. I was definitely an agnostic, if you like. Probably not a non-believer. I was an agnostic. I didn't sort of really know, and I didn't really care, and would much rather skip religious classes and go off with the mates, or all those sort of things. So I didn't have a high opinion of religion, and again, as I said to you at the start, the surprising part is that I never sort of pictured my life to where it is, and certainly today, my relationship with my higher power is something that I cherish, and has provided a lot of benefits and a lot of support and confidence, I guess, through the relationship with the higher power, and certainly that's what the step's all about, and that's what the program of recovery is. And when I did my third step, I felt like something changed in me, in doing the third step and the third step prayer, and making the commitment, and that was another sort of spur on in my sobriety. And probably prior to that, I believed in what people were saying around, when they were sharing, and obviously believed in the fact that I was identifying with people, that there was a change that could happen here, and that I could live a life that I'd always sort of dreamed of and wanted, and be the sort of person that I dreamed of and wanted, and as I say, largely that's playing out, hopefully, and that's been one of the benefits of sobriety. And so usual sort of things. Took some service positions in the group, and tried to get involved as much as possible. I've sort of always struggled with commitment's not the right word. I had this family at home, and as I say, I had a wife that wasn't necessarily supportive of me going to AA for two reasons, probably, because she'd lost a drinking partner, but also she sort of didn't believe in the program, and as I guess non-alcoholics would, and obviously sort of put lots of cases forward about it being a cult, and are you doing the right thing? They're going to steal all your money, and you're going to run off with a group of guys, and all this sort of stuff. And so we had all those sort of discussions, and so it was always sort of challenging. And we had young kids at home, so I felt like I couldn't get to a huge number of meetings after hours. So it was just sort of the Sunday, meeting was the key meeting, and certainly the book study for the first for the first few years, and understanding more about the disease, and I learned a lot, and I've learned a lot, and I'm just grateful that I continue to sit in the chair and continue to turn up. And there were times when I hadn't been for a couple of weeks, and because I wasn't as committed, or wasn't perceived to be as committed to the program, because I wasn't going to as many meetings as some of the others. I felt like a little bit of an outsider, and then, so to a certain extent that still feels the same way. It feels the same a little bit, but maybe that's partly my self-consciousness, and, it's lack of self-belief, or, that's improved a significant amount, but maybe that's a historical thing. So, but as I say, so sometimes it was hard, but it just, the message they're sort of trying to get to there is that, just, if you haven't been for a while, whatever, just get back to a meeting, get there, and perhaps part of the problems, your own thoughts rather than what other people are thinking, and get there and do the drill, and continue to be an AA member, and I think as long as you're considering that, that's going to hold you in good stead. So, and obviously continue to work the program, and I completed the steps, and with a sponsor, and maintained it. I kept that sponsor for 4 and a bit years, and recently changed sponsors. So, and that was sort of a confronting time. Again, it didn't work out. It probably hadn't been working out for either of us for a little while, and we probably both held on for too long. But again, that's another benefit of the program. I think where I would have taken a lot of the negativity on board and blamed myself for a lot of issues, I put it into perspective, and while disappointed, it was another good, really learning experience, and certainly being able to get a sponsor that's a good fit for me, and that obviously had the marriage and family and all of those sort of things, and probably a little bit more sympathetic when you're not at the meetings due to family commitments, which are inevitable. So yeah, I mean, and that's been a positive thing. And so, you know, continue to work the steps, and you know, the steps, and the continuing to work the steps, continuing to sit in meetings, and continuing to expand my relationship with my higher power, and that's what it's all about. And how I've done that, as I say, initially it was the group, you know, AA as a whole, because, you know, I could see that there was a feeling inside me, you know, when I heard people share, and when I sat in meetings that people understood what I was going through and what I identified with. You know, as I say, once I made the commitment, you know, in the third step to turn my life over to a power greater than myself, you know, that was a big relief for me too. I didn't really know how it was going to evolve, and I still probably don't know how it's going to evolve. But as I say, over the last 5 years, it's just continued to develop and continue to get a stronger relationship. And you know, as I say, you've been my higher power, and as I say, I get a lot of comfort and belief out of that. You know, the book obviously helped with all of those. You know, the big book helped with that, and just self-knowledge and self-learning, and you know, being willing to open your mind to those sort of to the higher power, I think has provided a big plus in my sobriety. The other thing that I sort of learned completely by accident, another sort of higher power occurrence, was you know, meditation. I did. I had to do some. Was recommended to do a mindfulness meditation course, and from that, you know, the 11th step, isn't it? So you know, the meditation, the daily prayer and meditation. That's been a wonderful thing for me also, and it's. It was one of the, you know, the voices in your head, you know, and it was through the meditation I was able to quieten down the voices in my head, and, you know, as I say, it's just my story, but the mindfulness meditation, you know, allows you to, gets you to focus on different, breath is the main one. So it says if you focus on your breath, and if your mind wanders, bring it back to your breath, and that was a real, as I say, it allowed me to learn how to shift my mind off, you know, when I was thinking rubbishy thoughts, and you know, the voices in my head, I could switch those off through the practice of mindfulness meditation. And so certainly, you know, if you don't have meditation in your sobriety, and I probably didn't for the first 2.5 years, certainly encourage you to seek some of that. I think that's been really beneficial for me. So I mean, all of those things, and just life's developed, and as I say, not particularly where I would have thought it would have been. You know, obviously the career's progressed, family life has progressed significantly. I mean, obviously got you know, a much stronger relationship with my wife, as I say, even though it's been troubled at times. Much stronger relationship with my wife, and certainly a really strong relationship with my 2 children. More so for just being present and just being, you know, there and being able to listen and not concentrate, not thinking about having another drink, or, you know, whatever else thoughts go through your mind. And again, that's sort of something that's evolved slowly over time. But you know, the presence and being able to have, you know, conversations and not be worried about you know, other things that are going on in my life has been a real blessing, and you know, and today I'm extremely grateful for that relationship, and I'm certainly grateful for things that I never used to be grateful for when I was drinking. You know, just beautiful weather and sunny days, and you know, generally just happy to be alive. But you know, I didn't have those things when I was drinking, and I do today. And so for those guys that are newcomers, and you know, even guys you know, that have been around that might be struggling a little bit, it's worth persisting through the bad times, the flat times, and keeping on your journey, and keeping focused, and you know, certainly encourage you all to do that. And you know, happy to have conversation with you afterwards or anything like that. So thank you for letting me share, and thank you for inviting me to speak tonight. Thanks.
We will now observe the 7th